Hello and welcome to Universal Love Law. I'm very excited to be presenting this new series of information today. I'm going to be talking about house lords and its placement within the houses, giving a brief description of how to locate the house lord and the house that house lord falls into. So this is a very complex concept that I'm going to use pictures. I'm going to use creativity in the form of art to where you guys can clearly see how to do this method when it comes to reading your chart, or how to get the information when interpreting what it means for you. So first and foremost, I will give this video as an example, and then you can expect for me to start posting each video that basically will break down each house lord from the first house all the way to the 12th house and where that house lord will fall into. So this is going to be a process. This series will take some time, but I'm very passionate about it because I know that it will help people to truly understand their charts on a more deeper level. Now, if you would like for me to do the research for you to clearly define it, I do provide that service with my packages on my website, universallovelaw.com. So that's totally up to you. You can now, if you want, you can also utilize these videos in the series that I'm going to be putting out. So this is a lot of information, so it will take time. But first and foremost, let's jump right on in with an example, understanding how to locate the house lords and what does it mean. So when you look at the wheel of the zodiac, you see the first house is originally ruled by Aries. This is the rising sign in the chart, and on all totality, it just correlates to the seasons change. But when we utilize astrology as the tool to breaking down the energy signatures within that time, that space, and that period, we understand that the Aries rising people, let's say you have an Aries rising, that would make your 12th house Pisces. So your 12th house would be Pisces, your first house would be Aries. Now this looks different when the wheel switches, when the wheel changes, when the wheel moves forward. For instance, if you're a Pisces rising, okay? So for my experience, I am a Pisces rising. So that actually places my 12th house at Aquarius. So I have an Aquarius 12th house, but I have an Pisces rising. So this is very important to understand when it comes to finding out the house lords, how to locate them, and how it affects your life. It truly affects your life, and it really helps you to clearly define the energies that are playing out in your life. Now, before I jump into how transits can affect that, because I don't want to lose that point, I'll mention it now then. So transits and aspects can affect the house lord in which it falls into what house, right? So if you continue to see and follow along, eventually the information will begin to make more sense. So let's utilize this example as an Aries rising person. So we know, how do we find the house lord? First and foremost, you would need to know what each and every zodiac sign, what planet are they ruled by? So if you knew that Aries is ruled by Mars, you would understand how to locate that house lord. So the Lord is the planet that is ruled by the sign in that first house. So, for the first house, as an example, having an Aries rising, since it makes a lot of sense utilizing this wheel here, you're able to see Aries rising. The house lord for Aries rising is Mars because Mars rules Aries. So, how do we locate where Mars is in the chart? Of course, you're going to need to have a birth chart and your time of birth, location, and date, so that you can get an accurate understanding of where all of your planets fall in your houses. Now, Aries first house. So your Mars, let's use an example. Let's say that your Mars falls directly into your second house. So the way you would know that, it would let you know on the different softwares, of course, when you look up your rising sign. It will show you where Mars is. It will have a number next to it. And let's say for this example that Mars is falling in the second house. Well, that would mean that the Mars would be in Taurus, right? Or it would be a very later degree of Aries. It may even be a very early degree of Gemini. But ultimately, the Mars would fall into the second house because the second house after Aries rising is Taurus, right? So when we go through Aries, Taurus, Gemini would be the third house, correct? And so on and so forth. The fourth house would be Cancer. So for in this instance, let's say that you have your Aries rising and your Aries is ruled by Mars. So the house lord is Mars, and we would find out where Mars falls. And for this example, we'll say Mars is falling in the second house of values, right? So that would mean that Mars would have to either be in a Taurus, late Aries degree, or early Gemini. So once we find out where the house lord is, we would say it in a clear term. That means that the first house lord sits in the second house. That's how we defined that. So once we see where our house lord sits, which remember, the house lord is just the planet that is ruled by the sign in your house. So once we find out where the first house sits, right? The first house lord, Mars is sitting in the second house of Taurus, but the second house is our values, right? Our security, our self-esteem. So once we know how to clearly say it, understand it, now it's a time to define it, right? So we would look at all the information. For instance, Aries rising people are self-starters, independent, they're forward thinkers, they're cardinal. So they like to initiate the way they feel about situations based on what they're seeing, right? They're fire energy, passionate, very assertive people, very I am people, wanting to define who they are uniquely and different and separate from the crowd. They may go for their goals in a very assertive, even aggressive way. And for this example, that would mean that this person's personality is being fueled into the second house of values. Why is that? Because Aries, ruled by Mars, the house lord Mars is falling in the second house of values. So now we see that person's personality is being fueled in towards their security, their goals, their ambitions, right? Their self-esteem. So these will be very assertive people in business or when it comes to work, very no nonsense, and it shows up in their personality, right? These are the type of things that they associate themselves with. This is what they're known for. Their values. These people can be even materialistic in a sense, wanting to show their worth through their hard work and their efforts, but also through their materialistic gains, right? And so this is just an example, because let's say that Mars didn't fall in the second house and instead it fell into the seventh house. So we know what the seventh house is. The seventh house is the relationships, right? Hidden enemies, not hidden, open enemies, teachers, lovers, okay, mentors. So if the Aries rising person, right, their house lord would be Mars. If it was in Libra, it would directly put their Mars in their seventh house, the descendant. But remember, that's an opposition there. So this will affect the person, this house lord. It will affect this person's personality directly. Now we see that the personality, this Aries rising person, is funneling its personality and style within relationships, right? So relationships really have a big effect on defining and molding and shaping this person into the Aries rising that they are, because it's directly linked to the seventh house, right? The relationships. They may often attract people that they are very opposite to, or that may even eventually become their enemies, right? So it gets very complex. These people could even, let's say that there's a lot of positive aspects to the seventh house. Remember, the first house is Aries, the house lord is Mars. The house Aries house lord is Mars. So when that energy is channeled to the seventh house, because Mars is there, remember Mars falling in the seventh house, that would look like a person having, maybe even attracting positive mentors, having a great relationship with their teachers growing up. So it really depends. We want to see the whole chart. But if you're interested in learning more, please stay tuned. I'm going to begin this series. This was just an example on how to understand the complex concept of finding the house lord. And if you would like for me to do that for you, I don't mind. I do provide that service on my website. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys are excited. I'm going to be jumping right on in with the first house lord. So another thing is, I will not be breaking this down based on the sign. I will only be breaking it down on a very basic level. So I will be using terms like first house lord in the second house, first house lord in the third house, first house lord in the fifth house, so on and so forth, instead of doing the whole Aries rising, Taurus rising, Scorpio rising. I'm not going to do that. That would take a long time, and I do want to get this series out very quickly so that people can begin to understand their chart more thoroughly. So yeah, when it comes to understanding where your house lords fall in your chart, and a very basic overview of the energy signature, I think it's very important for beginners, even for people who are very skilled at understanding charts and want to eventually work with others in helping them understand their charts. This will put you in an advanced level. So thank you guys so much. Stay tuned for the series that I'm coming out with. Take care. Peace.